Okay, welcome to the CourseCREEK Streamcast podcast show where we interview our clients and our partners and get some perspective on what it was like for them to build a course to get into the e-learning industry and an opportunity to share with us a little bit about their business. Today, I have Mike Aning from Mosaic Mortgage, who has worked with us for about a year. He is a rock star in coaching learners on how to get better deals and more in regards to mortgage. In fact, I actually have used your advice, Mike.
Advice, guidance,
Didn't I? Yeah, in regards to honestly to help me get a much better deal when I refied. So thank you for that. And without further ado, I give to you guys Mike Aning from Mosaic Mortgage. Say hi, Mike.
Hey, nice to meet everybody. Robert, thanks for having me here. Really looking forward to a conversation today, and yeah, it's going to be fun. So let's jump into it.
All right, now, who is Mosaic Mortgage? How do you serve your customers? What makes it a little bit different than your mortgage service down the street? Tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, well, I fell into the mortgage industry 22 years ago, and it was after buying my first house and going through the entire process and realizing how much I didn't know about it and how much I was trusting somebody to do the right thing. And shortly after, this is 2021, 2001, I apologize, 2001, getting laid off, and I actually fell into the mortgage industry. And then I realized just how much there was on the backside, and then how much financial literacy at the end of the day I was lacking, and in actually across the industry itself, how much financial literacy is missing from your day-to-day, let's buy my first house. So for example, one thing that's kind of a principal staple for us is going through a budget, right? Because how do you know what you can buy if you don't have a budget? It's something I certainly didn't have. So as I started developing and meeting more people and seeing these gaps of holes where people had questions and they just, and some of it was actually, pretty basic, but if you don't learn it somewhere, you don't learn it anywhere. So when clients were coming to us, it gave us a really good platform to be able to provide the foundation, understanding how taxes work, looking at your pay stubs and understanding exemptions, actually putting together a monthly budget and having a target on how much you're supposed to spend. So those are some of the things that I learned just over the last 20 years, just adding pieces here and there to the entire process to make our client experience much more complicated. So we try to make it easy, but it's just more robust. So when our clients come to us, they're just well informed. It releases the stress that's typically involved in the transaction, making sure that we can answer all the questions that they have. But the kind of the biggest piece of with the Mosaic, as we are today, was bringing all of those pieces of your finances together into one space. So when we look at credit, we look at debt, we look at all of those things. Typically, in the normal mortgage experience, Robert, this, you upload your documents to a portal. Maybe you have a conversation or two with the loan officer, and they come back to you and say, "Okay, here are your options," and you're like, "Is that it? I have questions. Where else can we go with this?" So with our process, again, starting at the beginning with the written budget, going through credit, understanding what liabilities exist so far, and then really identifying what a borrower or a client is able to repay every month. That's a very personal number. I'd say that's the number one mistake home buyers make, is not knowing what they are capable of paying every month and relying on a loan officer or a real estate agent to say, "Hey, here's what's good for you." So when we created Mosaic, again, it's a collective whole formed from diverse elements. That's the definition of Mosaic. And we look at our clients' 401k investments. We refer them out to our partners. So all we do is the finance piece of it, but we've got a really great network of financial advisors, tax people, trust attorneys. So when our clients have really specific surgical questions, we can get them to the right place.
So this is far more than help me get a loan. This is, you're a guide and you have a passion, it seems, to teach and sort of protect, in a way, people, make sure that they understand that they're making the right decisions. And as you went into this, you realize that, something we all sort of realize is that it's damn complicated.
Yeah.
It's a super complicated thing. And for someone like you to sort of step in and hold people's hands and ensure that they're making the right decisions seems to be an extra effort that you don't get from an average mortgage person. Is that fair? Do you see yourself as a teacher, as a guide, as a protectorate of clients, and not only just helping them get a good deal?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, there's the saying that says, experience is something you earn, after you need it, meaning you learn things the hard way first before you realize an easier way to do it. So when clients come to us, we help bypass that step altogether. So the education, the coaching, the Q&A, and really finding out where a person is at, because honestly, there's clients that we talk to 6 months, 3 months, a year and a half before they're ready to buy. But again, when you set a goal for yourself, it's something you have to work towards. In most cases, it's very rare that someone says, "Hey, I want to do this," and I'm good to go. But in most cases, it takes a little bit of planning, a little bit of course correction today to make sure in 90 days or in 6 months from now that you're ready to go. And that's all about not just doing the paperwork. The paperwork for me is easy, looking at your tax returns, your W-2s, and saying, well, here's the loan proposal based on whatever the market's doing today. Here's what you can do. But that would be like sending somebody to, the base of, Everest and saying, well, you've got your gear, you've got your tent and your oxygen masks. Now go ahead and find your way. Why would anybody, not want somebody to guide them all the way through? So that's what we bring to the table, is those expertise, the knowing where the pitfalls are going to be. So in advance, we can, not go through the pain that most people learn by trying to do it on their own. And, frankly, today there is a danger with the internet, right? Because the internet, there's a lot of information out there, and it's like you get sensory overload, and you don't know what applies to you just because it applied to somebody on the internet.
Right. And then referring to services and what have you, like and educating, let's get to it. You made a course, right?
Mm-hmm.
You did this self-paced asynchronous course at the moment that we're grateful to have the opportunity to help you build. Let's talk a little bit about that. The art and craft and skill sets around building an online course, monetizing your expertise, and producing content that takes what you know in a whole new context and presentation. What are some things that you learned about making online courses?
It was one of the things where I love what I do. Actually love what I do, working with people one-on-one. But I realized, I would have a lot of my clients will refer people to me, or a lot of real estate agents that I work with, a lot of financial advisors, a lot of other professionals. And a lot of times, I would say 20% of the time I get referred, it's already after a point of no return. What I mean is a borrower has gone somewhere else, they're having a challenge or a problem, and then they come to me for an option. Sometimes we can fill the option, provide something better, and move them on to something better. But oftentimes I'm just giving them, hey, do this. Who you're working with, what's the bank name, who's the loan officer. I can tell if they're experienced or if they're brand new. There's lots of information that I can gather because I know where to look. So a lot of time, part of my job for my past clients, for my friends, family, and referral partners is just giving people advice. Right. So I know that for whatever reason, I don't have an opportunity to do the loan. It's in another state. The person's brother does loans or whatever, but they have some questions. So people, 20% of my business, because it's a value add that we do to just, help solve problems, was taking everything that I know and just putting, answering questions and servicing my partners. And I was realizing that there's a pattern, and the pattern was this is the same thing that happens everywhere, right? If you pass the beginning, if you don't go through the steps that we go through, and all you do is turning your paperwork to a bank, online bank, somebody that's, in the call center in some other country, if not some other state, there was all the same basic stuff. So it's like, well, if I could put this information together and make it available for people to walk through at their own pace, it does two things. Number one is it helps educate the consumer. The consumer, the person who's going to do the borrowing, I'm going to walk them through the few steps that it takes to make sure that they're borrowing the right amount and they're actually borrowing responsibly. And the second step, and this was what's kind of was an add-on after I started building, what's like, how do I teach people the forms, the jargon, the lingo that loan officers use so they can negotiate a better deal? Because I gave, in the course, I do have email scripts that when you reach out to the loan officer for the first time, how do you interact? Because part of the interest rate, proposal, closing cost question, the other part of that is how do they respond? If I send them an email today, are they going to get back to me 2 days from now, right? Are they going to pick up the phone and call me if there's a phone number on the email? You want to measure what type of person you're hiring to represent you through the home borrowing process, because especially in a purchase, you just can't afford to trust it in the hands of the lowest bidder. Mm-hmm.
What were some of the challenges and lessons you learned about making a course, the production? The craft.
Some of it was just the technical piece, the websites, the platforms that are available, cameras, lighting, getting microphones and all that stuff. It was one of those things that seemed intimidating, and after working with you in your firm to go through the steps and just getting used to it, it actually made things a lot easier, a lot better. So that was probably the biggest thing, because once I saw myself on camera, once I heard myself, and this was even before getting to content, was, very self-conscious, very self-aware. And it was like take after take after take to shoot like a 30-second spot, right? I've learned to put my cell phone in another room so it doesn't vibrate when I'm trying to record something. So little things like that. But then with, breaking down the course in segments, keeping the videos at the right lengths, because I think, with most of us that are passionate about what we do for a living and what we want to give to the community, we can ramble on a little bit. I certainly can. So kind of putting together the storyboard, and going through the modules and the lessons plans in the modules, just having that framework all together to basically fill in the gaps and then just micro shoot one at a time. It took a while. I did it from this location. I did it from my office. I did it from one of my houses. So one of those things where it's like, I have mobile equipment ready to go. I've got the camera, the tripod, I got lights up at the places. I was like, the investment in the equipment was, in this grand scheme of things, was small enough to have it in 2 locations just so I can get it done. Because otherwise, Robert, you know this too, my program did take a little bit longer because my own personal delays in actually getting everything done. Once I got over that hump, we knocked it out.
Yeah, we worked hard to get your on-camera background and stuff figured out. We even, we walked around your office and did a visual audit on some good backgrounds. And you stand out in my portfolio of clients and people that we've helped with the on-camera stuff. You stand out as like a big success story for me. Like I'm sort of proud as your teacher a little bit about how we started and what we ended up with, like what you're standing in right now. Not bad, it's got nice framing, we've got depth, we've got some color, it's and then some of these other ones that you use in your course, which just was nicely done. So that's a sort of a roundabout way of complimenting you on your hard work and getting this done.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Couldn't have done it without you guys. So you guys were amazing.
Well, hello, I want to talk to you real quickly about a learning management system that CourseCREEK recommends quite often. It's called LearnWorlds. You have the opportunity on LearnWorlds to license your content to large organizations. LearnWorlds has design templates that look beautiful, fluid, and silky to the eye. You can give your students badges and seals and do a lot of fun things to encourage them to keep moving on. So if you're looking for a great learning management system, we do recommend LearnWorlds. And of course, we can help you put it together and get it on its feet. Thank you. So let's keep it simple. What are the what are the 2 top pain points that clients repeat every day when that comes into your inbox? What are the most common questions that you get that you answer on a regular basis?
I've said this a million times, and I'll say it one more time. I think that the biggest mistake most buyers make is coming to me and asking me, what can I afford? I can tell you what you can qualify for based on the paperwork, but what a person or a borrower or a household or a family can afford to repay every month is a completely personal number. So what I mean is, if you have 2 people or 2 families that earn the same amount of income, they're buying the same, their same amount of income, no debts, but one family has 2 kids in private school. What they are able to repay every month is going to be different than the person who doesn't have kids, that doesn't have private school. But with the way the banking work, you start with your income, your liabilities, and then the bank spit out a result saying, here's what you qualify for. Here's what we're willing to lend you. But again, going through personal debts, we've got clients that have family out of states. We have clients that have parents or other siblings or family members that they're sending money to or taking care of. And all of those things are budgetary items. So the number one mistake is people come to me and say, what can I afford? And I got to say, well, I can help you answer that question, but that's something you need to tell me. And that's the same thing. If you work with a loan officer, this is what I realize is most banks aren't going to ask you these questions. If you say you have 2 dependents on your tax returns, they're going to say, okay, what age is your kids? Are they currently, in private school? Is there any other things that we need to? So by going through our budget exercise, we actually have our clients pencil out everything that they're forecasted to spend, even to having an allowance so they have money that they can spend extra, because then that tells us what's left over. So when clients, without addressing this, they're kind of deciding on a house payment, kind of like, looks about right. feels about right, and then can you imagine the nervousness that goes along for the next 90 days thinking, am I going to be able to make this? Was that payment the right one?
Yeah, well,
Um,
I don't have to imagine it.
yeah, right.
Experienced it before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So even before we get to the loan paperwork, even before we get to what they can qualify for, this is where
Yeah.
we start, because once we get over that hump, buyers know what's good for them. And this is that time where we can make adjustments if we need to. So for example, I mean, it's all reality across the country. If you're in a metro area, the farther out from town you get, the cheaper it gets, the more affordable. We say sometimes clients have, based on their budget, have to drive until they qualify, right? Because it's just as you get away from the center of of town, it just becomes more affordable. You definitely get more bang for your buck. But in those situations where we know someone's going to have a 30 or 40-minute commute, by going through our budget exercise, we can help mock forward for gas. You're paying $100 for gas now. When you move, it's going to cost you $300 a month, right? So we can do some of these forecasting things so people can make sure that the whatever money's left over at the end of their month is a good amount to apply to their house. That's something that really nobody else does. It's not standard for the industry. Big banks don't want to talk about it because they don't want their loan officers giving bad advice and taking the risk. So most loan officers online or at big banks don't want to even have that conversation. In fact, they can't even talk about it.
I don't want to forget to share my story that I have in regards to advice that you gave me. Maybe it's simple, maybe it's obvious to some folks, but what was it? I think I was watching I was reviewing one of your videos that you did for your course, I believe, as your on-camera coach. And I think it was about negotiation, and I was actually I was refining, and I didn't realize that you could sort of beat up on these guys a little bit. I didn't realize that you could negotiate, and you and I. So, anyways, folks, Mike and I exchanged some emails like, yeah, hell yeah, man, you can do better than that. Ask for it. Get crazy, get kooky, get brash. And I'd never done that before. And I certainly know how to negotiate a better deal. I just didn't realize you could do that with the mortgage folks. And I did.
Right. Yeah.
And I got a much better deal. So
yeah,
I called their bluff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so thank you. That's if those of you that may not be aware of that, you don't have to take the first rate they give you, right? You can just negotiate and get a better deal.
One of my modules is exactly about that, because again, I'm self-employed, right? Just like you, we're in the business to make money. We're in the business to serve our customers. We can't have a business if we run for free. However, we still have to be competitive. We still have to be sharp.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to take, money out of anybody's pockets. However, when we're dealing with what I do for a living, I can see where some of the fat is, and where some banks just make more money than they need to, because they can't, because nobody asks. So again, without, some people are totally fine getting in your face and having not a combative, but a hard negotiation. But some people just aren't like that. So what's a good way for someone who doesn't like conflict, doesn't want to feel like they're upsetting somebody, to send an email or to send a text, or have a very quick, very simple question on how can I get something better, right? And I provide email scripts and all that stuff. And I know for you, it worked out. Even when, honestly, because I've had clients where I just say, hey, just talk to your loan officer, tell them you're talking to me, have them look up my name, and tell them that this is what we're able to offer you. And just, I'm online, people can find me. So just by that, they know there's somebody legit. It's not some random person that you'll never be able to find, at some bank. It's like, oh, he's legit. We do business. So just having that has helped our clients, save some money too.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I think we just heard you say you have scripts that you might be able to share. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That's all in the course.
Yeah, very cool. What is the name of your course?
Borrow Savvy is the name of the course. So my company is the Mosaic Mortgage Group. The online course portion of it is called Borrow Savvy. It's funny. I thought of that name probably 7 years ago, and I had parked it somewhere because I'm like, I want to do this. And there was just the online platforms aren't as easy as they are today to work with. And of course, having support like CourseCREEK and working with your entire team, that really is now a secondary industry that really didn't exist. So it was one of those things. So the technology is certainly making it easier to take our expertise and put it out into the world, because people are looking for information, not only information, but they need to know how to assimilate it and make it work for them.
That's a really good point, is that, and I've been doing courses for 20 years, before it was all stream. It was, we were burning DVDs. I remember the day I went from DVDs to just log in and stream. I mean, that was
Right.
just like
Right.
car. I mean, that was just amazing. And point is these learning management systems are
Mhm.
amazing what they can do. They're all buttoned up and all in one, and you're running on
Yeah.
Kajabi, and it's the same system I have as well. It's just fantastic. Share your hero story or your rise of Phoenix story, a moment in your life where you sort of felt like you were down in the dumps. There was a lot of adversity. Maybe you're being kicked in the teeth or something of that nature. And just by pure perseverance, you rised and succeeded. Share with us your rags to riches or your adversity to success story.
Mhm.
Vulnerable and inspire us. Everybody has one.
Yeah. So my story, I've thought about this because I actually like everybody have several stories to kind of go through. But
Yeah.
as it relates to me personally, and as it relates to what I do for a living, the event happened 22 years ago today. Well, not today, but 22 years ago, where I got laid off. Right. So I was born and raised in San Jose, California area. So I'm still in the area. So growing up, being born and raised here and helping my community here was actually something that I think is very cool. But, again, just through the household, education, college, financial literacy wasn't something that was really strongly supported in the household. It was like, hey, get a job and get in the workforce and kind of go do your thing. So didn't attend college, been working full time though, since I was 17. Right. So it's been, my path of knowledge in Quest was a little bit different. I've always taken classes here and there for different specific things that I needed. But, going into before getting laid off, I had a 6-figure job. I was, late 30 or late 20s. So it was just about this time where you're supposed to be doing things. I bought a house, I got married, and then I got laid off. So right after I got the loan payment, right, and had to get committed, not only with my wife, but just to that mortgage payment, I got laid off. Shortly after that, I went to some personal growth seminars, and actually, when I was down, right, I had a little bit of money saved up, but I didn't have an income. I actually signed up for some educational courses through, a company that I would do hands down again. It was a large amount at the time, but my life and trajectory, self-learning, all of that has changed on learning how to be a business person and some of those things. But the reason I bring that up is that coming from that point of being unemployed, having a house payment, having new obligations, and having no income, when I fell into the mortgage industry, it was like I learned so much about what was missing that it was very easy for me to start filling in some of those gaps. Again, just talking with the budget, talking about taxes. So as I started developing my own personal career in the mortgage business, I realized that almost everybody I talked to kind of followed the same path. Very few people, even if they're high income earners, don't manage their budgets monthly the way we like them to. So when they're trying to figure out what's good for them, what's able to afford, what they can do, they still walk into somebody and go, well, tell me what you think I should do. And most people on the other side of the table aren't really qualified to give really good advice. So by working with our network of financial advisors, trust attorneys, tax people, we can make sure that we bring a lot of that to our customers. But it was something I had to spend a lot of money to know how to learn. So fast forward 20 years later, that first house I bought for $30,000. Well, I bought with the $30,000 down payment. I've translated into a house that's worth over $2 million, and I owe like $800 on it. So from an investment standpoint, and what I like to share with my clients is, it's almost impossible to save money from your earnings to build net worth and to build something substantial. You have to invest. You can invest in the stock market, or you can invest in real estate. And historically speaking, real estate has been a great investment for the long term. So local kid from the Bay Area, serving my community, serving my state. We obviously do other states, but still being as connected as I am here in the community, doing what I do. Because again, when we talk with high school kids about budgets, we're not talking about loans and stuff, but we do give classes to high school kids about just how credit works. Well, how to fill out a checkbook, how to manage your money that way. So by having reached a certain level of success in my business, it does allow me to give back a little bit more. I've joined Rotary in my local community, just because, these are things where we do have to give back to bring up the next generation. So hopefully that was, that was my personal story. So the advice that I would give anybody is to count your pennies, right? Life is stressful enough. And if you're not counting your pennies, then it adds to the stresses of your day-to-day as you go along. So what I mean is, as we're looking at your paychecks and your take-home pay and looking at how do you get ahead, It's easy to not think about these things. So, nobody builds a fortune overnight. It's normally done by smart, deliberate decisions made every single day. Right. So it's not like you're going to win the lottery. You can't plan on that. You might have a rich family member who's going to leave you a bunch of dough. But for most of us, we do have to build it ourselves. Right. And it is something that we have to be realistic with our expectations. But if you ignore it, the longer you ignore your savings and your financial health journey, the worse off you're going to be. I see it when I've got people who are, late 40s, early 50s, trying to finally get a hold of their financial future. And at that point, it's already too late. So it gets really difficult. But I get excited when I see younger generations, people out of college, really starting to tighten down. The technology is so much more advanced now. It actually helps make the job so much easier. But live on a budget, know what your monthly expenses are supposed to be, what your income is, and live your life to where you can still save money first. If you don't pay yourself first, if you're exhausting your paycheck, you're not even looking, as long as you have money in your checking account and you're spending money, right? That doesn't work, and it's just going to make your life that much harder. So the only way to get ahead is to manage your money, count your pennies. The dollars will take care of themselves at that point, and then start saving to invest. I, of course, do residential real estate. Stocks can be an option, but if you're looking at what generally, historically, for most Americans has provided the most wealth generationally for most households, real estate has been a good platform. And I still say this today, even though the economic times are uncertain at this point. If it's affordable and it's for the long term, when is now a good time to buy? Because it's still, if we can do it now, the sooner you get started, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be able to handle all the all the economic up and downs. But the sooner you get started, the better off you're going to be. Yeah, the website for the company is Mosaic MTG, short for mortgage, mosaicmtg.com. Also on borrowsavvy.com. I'm also listed there.
Okay, great. And I'm Robert Lunte with CourseCREEK. That's course in online courses. Creek is in a little river.com. And we are signing off. Mike, again, thank you very much. And thanks for sharing your wisdom. It is good stuff.